So today we are going to look at PHP functions. So we use functions to write a piece of code that we think we may need to repeat again. So they are so powerful, like in case I want to do a certain logic and I don't want to repeat myself, I better put that logic in a function. So that's why we need functions. They are really useful, because assume that we want to create a logic that will be calculating someone's age when we give it like the date of birth, and then it will calculate someone's age. So if you have such a problem and you want to create such a logic, and you use the knowledge and don't implement the functions, it means that again when you want to do the same thing, you will have to write the same code again. So assume that you want that same code. Thank you so much. Assume that you want the same code 20 times. So it means that you'll have to write the same code 20 times. Assume that you made a mistake in that code and you want to change it. Then you'll need to repeat it again 10 times. But with the power of functions, what we do, we write the code one time and then we reuse it as many as we want. That's why we always need what? That's why we always need function. So in this class we are going to look at how we can implement functions in PHP. So if you want to learn more, you can just come here W3 Schools and then browse to PHP and then browse to functions. You'll find them here, and then you'll follow along the functions knowledge. So let's begin. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a file and I'm going to name it functions.php. So I'll come to my text editor, Sublime Text, and I create a new file by pressing Ctrl+N, and I save it Ctrl+S, and I give it a number because I always number my items. Make them in the list. Okay, so this one was 16, so I'll make this one 17 so that I should know where I stopped at next time. So I've named this one as PHP Functions, and remember, in the name of my files I don't put spaces. Why? Because I don't want to cause the problem in the URLs or in the link. So if I do like this, you can see our file of function has opened and there is nothing there. So I'll start by creating a PHP tag, and I'm going to zoom it so that you can see clearly. And to create a function, first of all, in PHP, you just simply specify and say function. So you write that function, and after writing the keyword function, you give this function a name. So for example, I can say this function is going to be called introduction. Okay, introduction. So this function will introduce me. So I'll just say intro. Okay, then after giving this function a name, you open the normal brackets and close them. So that's the syntax, and after you put a curly bracket, open curly bracket and press like enter. So between this curly bracket is where you put all the logic of your function. So whatever I want to be done when you call this function, you put it between here. So for example, in this function, I'm going just to print my name. Okay, so I'm just going to say echo, my name is Mohindo Mubarak. That's the name, that's the use of my function. So I've written this code only one time, and I'm going to implement it more than one time, and it will work it will do what I want. So let me put here some BR tags that you should create a new line. Okay, there we go. So if I go back to my browser, I refresh, you see nothing is appearing. So why there is nothing which appears? It's because we have not implemented this function. It's just like the way you can buy a certain item and then you don't use it. That item will be there until you do what? Until you use it. So likewise, we have created here a function, but it will not work until we implement it, or until we put it in use. So if one put it in use, we do what we call calling it. So if I call this function, then it will do what it's supposed to do, what it was meant for. And to call a function, you just simply write its name and then put the brackets like this. So it means that this function is going to be called here, and then it's going to do the task, and when it finishes, then the program will continue. So if I come and refresh, then you can see my function is, my name is Mohindo Mubarak. So what do you mean that we can, when I say that we can reuse this function, what did it mean? It means that I can even call it again and again. See, I just call it again and again. See, I call it how many times? Many times. But I wrote the name only one time, but I'm calling it many times. So what should you expect? We should expect the output to be as many as possible. So it means that we can write a certain code, and then we reuse it as many times as we want. It's just like you can make your own, you can buy your own car, and then you use it as many times as you want. Otherwise, if you don't buy a car, then you'll have to walk the distance by yourself, and that is so tiresome. So instead of walking the distance by yourself, you buy a car one time, you create a function one time, and reuse that car many times. And we reuse that function many times by simply calling it. If you don't use your car, then it will not work. Likewise here, if we don't use these functions, it will not work. So that's a simple introduction to functions, and those ones we call them non-argumented function. This function did not take any argument. So you can come and read along at W3 schools. That's why they're talking about what? About functions. So let us look at argumented functions. Function that will give them arguments. Okay? So this function is static because we cannot use it on what? On different users. What if I want to create just one function, and if I call this function, it will be dynamic and perform different things according to what I want. So it means that that function will have to give it arguments. And to create a function of argument, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to save it as 18, and then I'm going to call this one function, and then put arguments. I've called this function what? Argument. And save it. Okay, there we go. So I'll come and change this file and put function argument. Now how do you create function with argument? Now assume that this function, we want it to be dynamic. We don't want it to be static, because here it is introducing only one person. But assume that you are creating a school management system whereby this function will be introducing any student that we want. So to do that, we have to give this function what we call arguments. So to receive an argument, you just follow the same syntax, but the only difference is, well, for example, I want this name to be dynamic. I will do what? I'll have to receive this name here. So I'll put a $sign and I give it anything that I want. For example, I can put name. So when I call this function, it will ask us, we shall give it what it should print. So I'm going to remove this name and make it dynamic. So to make it dynamic, I'll put these curly brackets, or of course you know curly brackets, and if you put a variable inside there, and if it is surrounded by double quotes, that variable will be replaced with a value. So this function, it is receiving an argument of a name. Now let us try to call this function. Of course, to call it, we just simply say intro, but this time we shall not call it like this. If we call it like this, it's going to cause error. Why? Because this function, it is expecting a name. So if I come and refresh here, we see the function will complain. You see, there's a lot of complaint that we have done a wrong thing. So this function, you have to give it a name. I mean, you have to give it what you promised to give it, or what it is expected to be given. So if I put here Sumaya, and then if I save, I come and refresh, you'll see my name is Sumaya. So what has happened? This argument has been received through this name, and this name prints it here. So it means that this function will be dynamic. If I call this time Sumaya, I call the other time Halima, and I call the other time I call Husna, and then I call the other time and maybe say Mariam. So I'm calling this function multiple times. Now if I come and refresh, and I'm giving it different arguments. So if I come and refresh here, you see our function is dynamic. So that's what we call argumented functions. So if I comment this, let me comment it so that in case you download this code, you should be able to do what? To see what I was meaning. So another way of doing this, we can as well put a default value. Okay, so to put a default value, that's the value in case they don't provide a name. It should not throw an error. If I want to do that, we can as well put here equal sign like this, and for example I put no name. So what will happen? It means that if I call this function without specifying the name, it will work, but the default value of a name will be no name. So let me call the function right now. I will not specify a name. So if I refresh, you'll see my name is no name. Why? Because we do not provide the value. So if you provide the value right now, it will mean that that value will update this original value that is there. So if I pass here, maybe John Doe, like this. So this John Doe will be replaced in this no name, and this no name will be John Doe in case we give it a value. So if I refresh here, you'll see John Doe. So that's how we pass a function with a single argument. So let us look at how we can create a function with multiple arguments. Sometimes we may need a function which is having more than one argument. So I'm going to copy this code again and comment it. So in case you download the code, the link I'll put in the description for this code, you should be able to see all what I did. That's why I'm commenting it. So let us look at another type of function, a function which is taking more than one argument. Let me delete everything and create it afresh. So what do we begin? The syntax of a function is function, and then after creating function, we give it a name. For example, this function, I can call it sum, and this function, its task will be to add for us two numbers. So I'll call sum, and then I put here a bracket, and then I'm expecting two numbers because I've said sum. So I can say I'll expect A and put comma and expect what? B. So if I do like this, so it means that if I do like this, I mean this function will take two arguments. We can make as many arguments as we want, but here we separate arguments by putting a comma. So if I call this function, I'll just simply say sum for okay, sorry, I have to define the body of the function. Okay, so I can just simply say echo, and I say the value of A, and then I put dot to concatenate, then I say plus as a string, and then I put here the value of B, and then I put a dot to concatenate equals, and then I'm going to add these two. I can as well create here a variable called C, and I can say C is equal to A plus what? Plus $B. So what will happen? The A will be received here, and the B will be received here, and the C will be created, and we'll add up these two, and then we shall print this A, and we print this plus, and then we print the equal sign, and then we have to print also the answer, which is stored in C. So this function will perform for us an addition, some addition. So if we want to perform addition, I may simply say sum, and then I pass two values. Of course, this function is expecting two values. So if I say 10, I put comma, I put 60. So it means that 10 will be stored here and 60 will be stored here. This one function will give us an answer. So if I come and refresh, you'll see 10 plus 60 is equal to 70. And it's the function that has done that. So if we didn't have the knowledge of function, if we wanted to add these numbers again, it means that we could write this logic again and again and again and again and again, which is so hectic and time wasting. So what we do, we write something that we think we may need to repeat ourselves. We write it once and put it in a function and just be calling that function to accomplish for us that task. For example, this function of adding two numbers, I can recall it as many times as I want. So those are functions with arguments. So we go to another type of functions, returning functions. So I'm going to create a file and look at the returning functions. So I'll just simply say Ctrl-Shift-S, and then I'll name this one as 19, and I'll call this one function returning. Hope that's the spelling. So I'll have to remove this. Let me just delete everything. So I'll come and change here and put function returning. Okay, so there we go. There is nothing which has been done. Let me delete everything here because it's already saved in the other file. So there we go. So I'm going to create a first variable. I'm going to create a function which is simply say function, and we give this function a name. Let us call, how should we call it? Okay, let us call it subtraction. This function will just be subtracting for us numbers, but for it will be returning. So we shall just say sub, and we'll be taking two numbers, a, comma, and b. Okay, now I'll open curly bracket here. So the task of this function, it will not print anything. Remember the previous function, it was doing the logic that would not even tell it to do it, even print. But that's not the way we always make functions. We always make functions to perform the logic and give us what we want. So when we receive what we want, we can do with it whatever we want, other than for it to print. Who told it to print? So this function, I want it to return the answer, not to print the answer. What if I want to use that answer to other way? The other function was just printing this one. Can you see? It was printing the answer. But what if I wanted to use the answer in other things? So I couldn't access the answer. So to do that, we have to return. Okay. So to return, I can again create here a variable c, and then simply say a plus what? Plus b, which is $, is got that. So after we finish whatever we do, the whole logic, I can return by simply putting return, and then I put the value that I want to return. So this function, is supposed to be subtraction. Okay. So this function, for it will be subtracting b from a, and then return for us the solution. Then we are the one who will decide either to use this solution to print it, or in another logic, or in another function, or in any other thing. So to do this, I can simply say echo. For example, I can create here a certain variable. I call it x is equal to 50, and I call here another variable. I call it y, and I call it 11. Okay, so I'm going to call this function, and then say z equals. So because this function will return something, so I'll have to put equal sign because I'm expecting to get something from here. So equals subtract, and then I'm calling this function sub. So I'm going to give it maybe x and what, comma, and y. So this function will do the logic and give us the solution. Right now, if I run this program, it will not display anything. Why? We have not echoed anything, but there are some operation that has taken place. Now if I want to echo it, I can just simply say echo z, and then we see what will come out. So if I come and refresh here, you can see it is 39. Why? Because we returned. But so this 39, this solution, we can reuse it in any other way that we want, other than doing what? Other than printing by the function itself. So that's how we return functions. So it can be as big a logic as you want, but here I'm just keeping it simple for you to understand. And you can see here I'm just passing two variables, then it performs some subtraction, then it returns, and whatever it returns, I store it here in z, and whatever it returns, I then print it, or I can use it in whatever I want. Are you understanding? Smile.
Yes, I'm getting you.
You understanding?
Yes, I'm getting you. Yes.
Okay. So those are returning functions. You can come and read along, and the function with arguments. You can come and read along at W3 Schools. about functions. So we proceed. Now let us look at PHP arrays. So an array is a variable that will store multiple values. Okay, is ability to store multiple value in a variable with a one name. So before we were having a problem, like in case you want to store something, we could create different variables, just like the way we saw here. I created this one X, I created this one Y, I created this one as Z. Now assume that you want to store marks of students, and you're having 50 students to store marks. You have 50 students. So to do that, you may need an array. Otherwise, you will need to create 50 different variables, which will be very hard for you and spending the memory, as well as hectic to manipulate them. So to make it simple, we use arrays. Because with the power of array, we create a variable with only one name, and we can store there multiple values. That's what is meant by what? By an array. So in PHP, to create an array, you just simply put the variable name, then you create the equal sign, and then you start specifying the values, and you pass them like this. So let us create an array. So I'm going to save this file as 20, and I'm going to name it as PHP Arrays. So I'll come and open this file here. So there we go. Now let me delete everything here. So to create an array, you simply put the $, which is the name of the array, and then I can say my R is equal to array, and then open the bracket. Then you start passing here the values. For example, I can pass what should I pass? Phone brands. Okay, I can say Samsung. I can pass here maybe iPhone. I can pass Nokia. I can pass Motorola. I can pass what else? Sony Ericsson. Okay, there we go. So by doing that, we shall have created an array, and here what we're having inside, there are different values, and all of them, they are stored inside a single variable. Okay, I can even call it phones. Okay, I can say phone brands. Okay, so all these variables are stored in only a single variable, and that's what we call what? An array. So what if I want to access a certain variable here? Okay, so I'll have to say echo, and then I put there the variable that I want. So if I do like this, my program will cause an error. Why? Because it does not know what exactly I want, because I'm having many variables here and I've not specified which variable that I want. So if I come and refresh here, you'll see we'll have a what? An error. Why? We did not specify the variable that we want. So to specify the variable that you want, we will have to put what we call an index. An index is the one that will point where we exactly want to to access. So if, for example, if I want to access the iPhone, the indices of arrays, they begin from 0. So they begin from 0, 1, 2, like that. So if I want to access the iPhone, I'll have to pass 1. Okay, because if I pass 0, I'll access the Samsung. So if I come and refresh here, I'll be able to get the what? The iPhone. So by doing that, we shall be able to store multiple values in a single what? In a single variable, and that process, or that variable, is what we call an array. So if I want to pass, if I pass here 3, then to pass the next value inside the array. So if I pass something which is more than what I stored there, you see it will cause a what? An error, and it will tell us that the offset, we have gone out of the range, because we have not defined that index 5. So that's how we implement what? How we implement arrays in PHP. So it means that we can store as many values as we want in a single variable, and the indices of an array, they'll always begin from 0. So you can see if I can put here 0, it will show me that it is starting from here. So these are what we call index arrays. I can as well add there more values, or I can as well initialize it by just simply say fonts, and then I start specifying maybe 0, and then I put here the value that I want. I can as well do like this. That's also another way of initializing it. Or I can add more values by just simply adding on where I stopped at. For example, I can put 5, and then I put what else? Which other font did I leave? Maybe I should put Huawei. Okay, I hope that's the spelling. So I can specify 6 here, and then I can put maybe Techno. And then I can put ITIL. So if I leave this one here, it will replace this 6 one. Okay, so by doing like this, I'll have stored more values inside the array. So if I put here 7 or 5, I'll be able to access the element in the fifth in the fifth index of the array. So these are what we call indexed arrays. Those are what we call index array, which are just stored using what? With the indices are stored using the counting numbers. So you can come and read along here, and you see those are what we call what? Index arrays. Their values are stored using counting numbers, and that's how we do what? That's how we initialize them. So these index arrays, we can as well present them. For example, I want to print all of them. So we can use the knowledge of loop that we looked at before to print all of them. So what will I do? I'll just use it, for example, for loop. So what do you do? The syntax of for loop, the first one will have to pass the value that we'll use to count. For example, I can initialize I equal to 0, and then I say I is less than what? Is less than the size of what? Of the array, because if we want to count the size of the array, we use what we call count. So if you put here count, it will count for me the values that are inside the array. So I'll pass here the fonts, and then I put here $I plus plus. So it means that this I is going to count from 0 up to the end of the size of the font, because if I just put this count, it will count for me the value inside the font. So when to reach the size of the fonts, it will stop there. So if I want to print the next value here, if I want to print each value here, I'll just simply say echo, and I put the name of the variables, and after putting the name of the variables, I'll have to specify the index. But remember, I have a dynamic index which is going to increase by 1 every time the loop loops. So I'll have to put here the square bracket and put the I, because this I is going to be dynamic. It's going to be counting. It's going to go up until the array is over. So I'll put I, and then I'll attach there maybe a comma and a space to separate them, and then I will be able to do what? To print all these fonts. So if I come and refresh here, we'll have something like this. So it looped until it reached the last font. So I can as well come and attach this I at beginning here, and I say dot I, so that this font should be what? Should be numbered. So it's going to begin from 0. If I come and refresh here, you see we'll have 0 Samsung, 1 iPhone, like this. Okay, so by doing that one, we'll be able to do what? To present the array, the index array, using a loop. Okay, because their values are accessed using counting numbers. So we proceed to the associative arrays. So I'm going to save it as PHP associative array. So I'll put here 21 underscore the. I do not put the extension. Ctrl Shift S. I do not put the extension. I have to put dot what? Dot PHP. I think it already did it. It already saved the extension. So I'll delete everything here. So the associative arrays, their keys or their indices, they will be in form of what? In form of words. Okay. So you can read here: associative array are arrays that use the named keys that you assign to them. So they always be in form of what? In form of words. Before array, we're using the keys which are counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But here we're going to use the what? The words or a string to act as what? As the keys of the key names of what? Of our array. So those are what we call associative array. So here, to do an array, I'll just simply do like this. And here, of course, we have to specify. For example, let me let me put. I'm going to call it a student. Okay, so this student will have the following. So we'll have age. I will have name, and then I'll give this one name, maybe John Doe. And in the same variable, I'm going to specify like this another index or another key, and I can give this one age, and I'll say I can as well put another data type and say maybe 24, and then I put the same variable. Then I put what? I put what else? Country maybe, and I put Rwanda. Okay, so by doing like this, we'll be able to relate the things as well. We can as well use 0, 1, 2, 3, but with associative array, we have ability to name the indices using what? Using words, and that is really, really helpful in some situation. Also, in those arrays which you don't use the words, those are that we use just 0, 1, 2, 3. They are also helpful in different situations. Also, these ones are helpful in different situations, because this one we can as well. We can know the specific what, the specific name of a certain value. So if I dump this array, so to dump, I'll just first echo the pre-tag. So I'm going to tell you the use of this pre-tag, and then let me print r. We use print r, print underscore r to dump a value. Okay, so to dump a value, it will just give you the possible output. So if I come and refresh here, you'll see we're having the name, we're having the age, we're having the country. So it means that if I have this one and it is an array, I can as well specify the specific value that I want using the what? Using the name of that index. For example, if I want name, I can just simply put name, and then it will come to this array of students and look for me where there's a name, and you see the name is the only thing that is being what? That is being printed. Otherwise, if I don't specify, I can as well dump it. So this one will print the possible output. So you can ask, why did you put the pre-tag here? If I put the pre-tag here, HTML will ignore the space and our data will not be organized like the way we may need in a human reading. So you can see that's how the data is. But if I put pre-tag, HTML will consider that what will consider the new lines or the empty spaces to be taken as new line, and that's why you can see our data is organized in that way. So these what you call associative array, they are really important in some situation like this one. Otherwise, if we didn't have our associative array, we could have 0, 1, 2. So how could we know that this is a name and this is the age, this is a country? So it would be hard for us even to collaborate with different what? with the different developers. But if we collaborate with different developers and we're having here a name, age, and country, something like this, a developer can know that, hey, here is meaning a name, and here is meaning a country, and here is meaning the what is meaning the age, just by the use of what, of the indices. But if we didn't have associative array, we could use the zeros and what, and the zeros and the twos. So that's how we use the associative arrays to present what, to present information. So we can come and see here having those associative array, and here to loop through this associative array we will normally use a loop called for each loop. So for each loop, it does not want to know what's the size of the array. It just loops without even counting. And it will intelligently know when the array ends, and then it will stop. So to create a for each loop, we just create this. This is the syntax of creating a for each loop. What do? You pass the variable, of course that is the array name, and then you pass the key, and the key will be put for you. You put here as. So if you put as, the key will be put for you here, and the value will be put for you here. So it means that each key, that is a name and whatever, it will be stored in this key, and then the values, these values, they will be stored inside this value. I can as well change this one. There's no necessary that should be value. For example, I can even make it val, okay, because it's a variable. So if I want to come and print, I can as well print something like this. I can put the key one side, and then I put the value the other side. So if for each loop, it will just loop through this even without specifying its its size, because you saw in the other for loop we had to know the size of the array before we start looping through it. But this for each loop will intelligently know the end of the loop. So you can see here I'm putting the key here, and I'm putting the value. So the key and the value, the key and the value. So that's what I'm trying to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put here the name of the variable. So student. So this student is going to be, the key will be stored here, and the value will be stored here. And every time it loops, I'll be echoing, or I'll be printing the key and the and the value. So if I come and refresh, you see, I'll have the name, the age, and the country. So, and I did not print them manually, I just loop through them. So we use the for each loop to do what? To loop through any kind of array, whether associative array or indexed array. It will just loop through it. It does not mind whether it is what or what. So you can come and learn along here. Okay. So another way of initializing associative array, we can as well use this way, whereby you put the value here, you put the index, and then you point at the value, and then you put a comma. So you see here there's an index and a value, index and the value, index and the value. So we proceed to multi-dimension array. So multi-dimension array, it will help us to create arrays with more than one dimension array. A multi-dimension array is containing more than one array within itself. So an array within another array is what we call multi-dimension array. So to do this multi-dimension array, we can just simply do like this. We create an array, and inside another array, you see we put another array. So it means that it's going to be a multi-dimension array. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it multi-dimension array in PHP. So I'll just simply say 22 multi-dimension array, and save this file. Remember, you can download this file on the link that will attach to this video. So if I press enter, you see we still have the previous content. Now this was for one student, this one's for what? For one student. Now assume that you have many students. Assume that we have many students. So we may need a multi-dimension array. So assume this is one student. So I want to store another student. So to store another student, I will first create an array of students. So this is already an array, and we're having one student inside that array. So I'm going to create another array. I'm going to call it students. So I'll just say students like this, and then put a bracket like this. So and put a curly bracket like this. So I can say student 0. So it means that this student is going to start in the in the index 0, and then I will equate it to student like this. So it means that all the data that is here is going to be stored inside these students. This is, remember, this is a student, but this one is students. It's going to be stored in this students, variable, and in position 0. So let me update. Okay, let me update these values. So I'll just copy and then assume that I have another student. It's called Jen Doe, and she's maybe 34, and she comes from where? From Somalia. So that means that I have two students. So to put this student in the index array, I can as well just put here 1. Okay, so this student will be stored in the second dimension. Okay, so I can make as many as I want. So let me dump this students array, the students one, the one which is having multiple students. So to dump it, I'll just simply say printer and pass students. Let me put an echo and print the pre-tags, and then we see what will come out. So if I come and refresh, you'll see I have something like this. I have the array, and inside array we're having another array, and we're having the first array storing the data of a first student, and another array storing the data of a second student. So that's what we call a multi-dimension array. It's what we call a multi-dimension array. So if I want to access a certain value, for example, I want to access the country of a student 1. So what will I do? I'll first come and specify this array, and then I mean this index, and again specify the index of a certain variable that I want secondly. So to do that, if I want to print, for example, this country is what I want to print, I'll just simply say echo, and then I put the name of the variable, which is students, and then I specify the first one. So it means that I am now here. Okay, let's say that we want to print Somalia. Okay, so I have to specify 1 here. Okay, 1. So after specifying 1, then the second thing we have to specify is the country itself. So, and this is how we pass, or how we specify the multi-dimension array. Just the square brackets, one following the other. Okay, so by doing that, I'm expecting to do what? To get the student. So if I refresh, you can see I've got these students country. I've got these students country for the second one. So if I pass here 0, it means I'll get the student for the first student. So you can see it means that if we are to loop, we shall loop through the first one, and then we manually print the second one. But we can as well also loop through them. So by doing that, we can be able to store as many students as I want, or as many projects, as many objects that we want. You can store products, can store anything, and it is having multiple values, and it is being stored in another array. So that's why we call it multi-dimension array, whereby this is a 2-dimension array. It is having the second dimension, which is storing the old student, and then the second dimension, it's having the first dimension, which is storing the index of a certain student, and then it's having the second dimension, which is storing the index of a next student. So to accomplish this, we can as well use an array function called array push, and then to be able to do what? To push for you the value in that array, to that array. So that is a brief introduction to what? To multi-dimension array. So we can come and play along with these ones. So if I want, for example, to loop through these students, I can as well we see that I can as well just put here a for loop or a for each loop, and then I pass here students. So it means that that one will be looping through this first dimension, okay, which is 0 and 1. So that's why I pass students here. So inside this one, I'll get a student as a single node. Of course, I can even call it st, anything that I want, as long as follows the syntax of what? Of PHP variables. So if I want to print this student, it means that I'll not just print it directly. Why? Because it is still an array, even though I'm looping through it, but it is still an array of another, because it is an array of another array. So if I want to print, for example, the name, if I want to print the name, I can as well create another loop inside here that will be looping through these ones, or I can manually print them by simply saying echo, and then I put here, for example, name, and then I put dot what? Dot st. Okay, but remember this st is an object of this student type. So I have to pass here name, maybe I put also some br tag to create a what? To create a new line, and then put a semicolon, create a new line. So what else? You have age, pass here age, put here age. What else? You have country, put here country, and then put here country. So by doing that, we shall be able to do what? To loop through what? A multi-dimension array as a printing its what? Its values. So it is having more than one dimension. That's why I call it a multi-dimension. The first dimension is for a single student, and the other dimension is for other multiple students. So if I come and refresh here, you'll see we shall have something beautiful like this one: the name, the age, and the country. The name of the age and the country, and both of them, they're what? They are different. So so I told you that I can as well push this array by using what? Array push. Okay, we're going to look at that. Okay, so we come to sorting of arrays. We're going to look at different array functions. So PHP has a list of functions that it provides you to deal with the arrays. Okay, it has a list of functions that provide you to deal with arrays. So I'm going to create another file. I'm going to call it PHP Functions. So I'll save this one as what? As 23, and call it PHP Array Functions, and then save this one, then come to home here, and then come to end, and then delete it. Then if I come here on top and put this one here, I'll have an empty thing. So after having the empty thing, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a different function. We're going to look at different functions that the PHP provides for us that supports that supports the arrays. So the first one, we have the array sort. This one will sort your array. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple array. But remember, we have an array of fonts. I can use that one, save our time. So I'll put here this array of fonts. So I'm going to create a loop that will print them. Of course, you already have it. So which is this one. Okay. So we're going to look at these different PHP functions. So if I come and refresh, so we'll have these fonts here. So let us look at different PHP functions that support arrays. We have sort. So this sort will do what? We'll sort the array in the ascending order. So if I just simply say sort, so this is an inbuilt function of PHP, and then I say should sort the fonts, and then I pass the what? The fonts as an attribute. Okay. So if I come and refresh, you'll see my array, it began with Samsung, but right now if you come and see, it has begun with Motorola. So you can know that the phones have been sorted, and the last one is what? Is an Apple. It has been sorted alphabetically. We have another one, array sort. This one is descending order. Why do we call it array sort? I think it's because it is R for reverse. So if I come and put here array sort, it will do the reverse sort. Okay, reverse sorting. So it's going to do the opposite. The phone which would be the last alphabetically is going to be on top alphabetically. So that is the array sort. R sort. Then we have sort in ascending. We've looked at that. We have k sort. This one will sort according to the indices, and then here it will sort according to the what? To the indices in descending order. But here it has been sorting these two, the R sort and sort. It will do what? It will sort according to the what? To the values inside the array. But if you want to sort them according to the indices, we use the what? The array sort. I mean the k sort. That is mean the key sort. And then you have the key reverse sort. So you have the A sort. The A sort will sort the associative array according to the indices. And the AR sort, it will sort associative array according to the indices in descending order. So you can try those ones by yourself. The sorting. So PHP has got a lot of functions for what? For that supports the arrays, and you can come here in the reference of W3 schools and reference, you'll find here arrays. So you'll find a bunch of functions that can help you to deal with what? With PHP arrays. They are here. We have array. This one create an array. We have array change key case. This one will change all the keys in array to be to the what? To lowercase. We have array chunk, which will split the what? The array into chunks. And you have array column. This one will do what? Will return the values from the array into a single what? Into a single column input array. So we have a lot of functions, a lot of functions, a lot of functions, a lot of functions, a lot of functions. Array rand, this one will randomize your array key used according to the keys. You see, array rand. We have array push. This one, the one I wanted to show you. We have array replace, which one will replace. We have array reverse, which will reverse this array. We have array search. This one will search into the array. So you can come and play with these different array functions. Let us look at some of them. For example, I have array push. This array push will add one more element inside my what? Inside my array. So you can say array push. So it takes two things. It takes the array itself, which I have $ fonts, and then the second one is the what I want to push there. So I can push the alcatel and then put a semicolon. So it means that alcatel is going to also be part of our what? Part of our fonts. You can see it is here. So here it is at the last because it is the last, of course, coincidentally, and we have sorted it according to what? To keys. So if I come and put here maybe XYTel, that's another phone, you see it will be sorted and it will be made the last. I mean the second last. It is there because we have done what? We have sorted it. So that's the array push. Let me comment this sorting part so that you can understand. So if I refresh this, you see whatever we have pushed will be the last in the what? In the list. So we have another function called array pop. This one will delete the last element from the array. So I'm going to pass the fonts array here, and what it will do to delete the last element from the array. You see, it has deleted one element. So that is array pop. So I can pop as many as I want. So if I do like this, it's going to pop, or it's going to kick out some more variables from what? From array. So there are so many functions, interesting functions. Okay, interesting functions that you can come and see here in the what? Inside the reference of PHP array. So I can have another one. How did you call it? We call it array rand. What will this one do? It will randomize our what? Randomize our array according to the keys. So if I come and refresh here, you can see, are we sorting these arrays? Array rand, and then do I need to receive it? Refresh. So randomizing, supposed to randomize them. So you have array range, you have array sort, you have array shuffle. Oh, this one is the one that has meaning. Shuffle, I think, yeah. This one will do what? We randomize our array. You see, every time I refresh, the array is what? It's randomized. So if you want to make some kind of game which may include a dice, so you may do what? You may use that array rand to randomize the values inside your what? Inside the array. We have array shuffle. This shuffle to randomize the array in the array. We have array reset, which one will set according to the first original values. Array position, previous, and the rest. So there are so many functions of PHP that you can come and do what? And play with in this reference part of PHP arrays. So we're going to look at PHP super global variables. Now you've got to be serious here. Try to be as attentive than before. This is where PHP starts from. If you are not attentive, no, this is the high time you become attentive. PHP starts from here. So PHP super global variables, these are predefined variable of PHP that we can access anywhere in any part of PHP. They help us to deal with PHP functionalities. Among the super global variables, we have the globals, we have the server, we have the request, we have the post, we have the get super global variable, the files global variable, the cookie global variable, and the session global variable. We shall not look at all in a row as how they are arranged, because one may need to depend on the other. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take steps to understand the meaning of each. So I'll not just jump at all of them and then you start looking at them. No, some other they may need advanced knowledge. So to begin, you're going to look at the get super global variable. So you've been wondering all this long, like how shall we collect the data from external users? How shall we be able to get the data from people who use our websites? So to get the data from the people who use our website, we use a super global variable of get. So when we implement the get super global variable, we'll be able to collect the information that come from the external users. So how shall we do it? First of all, before I proceed, I would like you to realize that all the super global variables, they are written in capital letters, and apart from the globals, other super global variables, they begin with the what? With the underscore. So it is $, underscore, and the name of a super global variable in capital letter. So we are going to begin with the get super global variable. So as I've said, that the get super global variable will help us to collect the information from the users. So how do you collect the information from the users? Of course, you have to use forms. So from form, the user will fill the form and then submit the information to what? To our back end, and then the back end we can deal with what? With that information. So to do that, I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to delete everything. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to save it as .24 PHP get form. Okay, so that's this is just the name of a file, nothing big. Okay, so if I come and open this file, okay, so it's just a get form. So I'm going to create another file where I'll receive this form, and I'm going to call it same name, but I'm going to add the word process. So this file is the one that will be processing the form. So if I come and open here another tab, I'll just put here localhost stroke that. Okay, localhost stroke learn PHP stroke. So we'll have that one. Okay, and this is where, so we have two files, two separate files. One we're going to put the form, another one will process the form. So we want to see how we can process the form from one file to another file, or using the back end. So I'm going to create here my simple form, and it's going just to submit my name, my age, and my country. So to do that, I'll just simply put a form, of course HTML. So I write HTML. So the extension does not matter whether it is .html or .what. What matters is when you open PHP, then you'll have to write PHP inside there. But if the extension is HTML, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to put here registration. I'm going to call it maybe registration form. Registration form. And I'm going to put here maybe a h1 tag, and then I'm going to put here our input is going to be text, and this is going to be maybe name. So when you're submitting the form to the back end, we must provide the what? We must provide the name. Otherwise, if you don't provide the name to this input, it will be ignored, as we'll see. Let me put a placeholder, and I'm going to put here name, or I can say enter name. Okay, so that's a placeholder. So I'll duplicate another one, and I'll create here. Let me put here some BR to separate the two. So I'm going to create another one. I'm going to call it country. So if you don't put this name, then it will be ignored. So I'll put their country. I'm going to create another one. Put their BR. Okay. And then I'm going to call it what? I'm going to call it age. And I'll give this one enter age. Okay, so what is most important here is the name. Otherwise, if you don't put the name, it will be ignored. So they must be inside a form. So I'll cut all and first put the form first, form tag. Otherwise, if you don't put the form tag, then it will be ignored. I mean, you will have no how to submit your PHP form. So that's my simple form. As you can see, it's just an HTML form, and let us look carefully at the attributes of this form. So we have action. Action here, we shall put the link to where we want to submit this form. At beginning, let us submit this form to itself. So I'll copy the same link and I put it here. So here in the action is where we put the what? The name of a form, I mean of the link where, or the link where I want to submit our form. So the next thing is the next attribute is the method. So the method, we shall specify the method that we have to use. We have two methods that we use to submit a form. The first one is called get, and another one is called post. So here I've specified that I'm going to use the get method to submit this form. Then this other third one is a character encoding type, which is not so important. So it means that I'm going to submit to this form itself, and I'm going to get input as the name, as I've told you that the name must be there, as well as the country, and then this one. So these names must be there, otherwise if they are not there, then the input will be ignored. So what else? I have to put now the button that I'll click on so that this form should be submitted, because there must be an action, like after filling the form, we need to submit it. So to create that button, I can just simply put a button here, or I can put an input, and then I'll call this one submit, and let me put here some BR tag, and then I'm going to put here name. I can call it submit. Okay, so let us come and refresh here. You can see our registration form is there. So I can even come here and put maybe register instead. Register. So if you come and refresh, so I have register there. So here you shall enter the name, here you shall enter the country, you shall enter the age. So I can say my name is Muhindo Mbark, the country is Gambia, and they say the age is 46. Now let us that's the form, okay, but we are submitting to itself, okay, we are submitting to this very file. So I want you to observe very carefully at the at this link. Just put your eyes here on this link before I submit the form. You can see this link is clean, and then after submitting the form, I'll ask you the same question to see what has happened. Remember, we are using the get type to submit this form. So let me click on register. So when I click on this register, this form is submitted. But can you see what has happened? Can you see what has happened? Oh, I submitted to the process. Let me submit to itself. So I'll come and change this one to what? To itself. I want first submit it to itself before I submit to the process. Okay, so to the file itself. So I have to put here my name, my country, my age. So can you see the link? Now try to observe the link carefully. You can see what has happened in the link. We can see the information that was in our form has been encoded to something in the link. Let me copy it and I put it here, and so that we should be able to discuss it. I'm going to copy it and let me paste it here just to discuss it, to look at it. Let me comment. So can you see this is the name of the file that we are submitting to, and here there is a question mark, and after the question mark there is a what? There is a name and the equal sign, and then the name. There is another and. Then after there is and then the name and the equal sign, and then the and then. So what you should realize that our form data that we submitted has been encoded to something that we can understand. First of all, the form data that we were submitting, it was separated from the link that we submitted to, this link, using a question mark. So it means that if you add a question mark to this link, it will have told the browser that, hey, my link stops here and the remaining part is just the data that I want to pass. So here we're telling that, hey, our link has stopped here and our remaining part is data. So we come to the name, and this is the name that we're having in the form here, and then is equal to the value. As you can see, it's Muhindo plus Mbark. So if you have something that can mess up with the link, it will be encoded. For example, if there is a space in a link, that link might break. It will break. So it has been encoded to a what? To a link character that will not be able to break the link, and that is plus. So it means that plus, it will be taken as an equal sign, so that when this form will be received, this plus will be converted back to the space. Now if we submit plus, it means that that plus will be converted to its code. Okay, it will be converted to its code, because if you submitted the name, the plus is, if you submitted the space, the plus is converted into what? Into the space is converted to plus. So if you submit a plus, this plus will be encoded. Let me show you what I'm trying to mean. I'll refresh here. So instead of putting here, okay, let me put my name. So I'm going to put Muhindo plus Mbarak. So remember, this plus is used to replace the what? The equal sign. I mean the so can you see here, instead of putting plus, they have put %2. So that means that the plus has been encoded. That's not the main point, but what we're trying to mean here, that the information that will submit in the form, it will be formatted and encoded and then and attached to the what? To the link, as you can see this information here. So that's what we call a get, and you can see count is equal to this, and then this information is separated by the and sign. So the and sign will separate the what? Will separate the information. You can see the age is equal to that. And submit. See, submit did not have a value there. You see, submit is equal to nothing. So that's how we do what? That's how we submit information, and that's how the information is encoded. So we want to receive now this information. So to receive this information, it means that I'm going to put the what? I'm going to send it to this processing file. Remember, I have two files. This one is for sending, submitting the form. This one is for receiving. So I'll keep the form as get, but I'm going to change this one to what? To process. So if to another file. So if I refresh here, I'll come and feed my name, feed my country, and feed, why don't I put my, okay, I feed my country and then feed my age. So if I register, this information is taken to the action attribute, and the action attribute is this one. Okay, so you can see we have been redirected to this part. So if I copy this and let me copy and see, you see it has come the process. So here in the processing, you can see what we have received is this. Okay, just like the way it was, but it has just been sent to this processing file, because inside the action we put processing, so it has been sent to this processing file. Now the question is, how are we going to receive that data and process it inside the processing file? So to receive that data, we are going now to need the knowledge of the get super global variable. So to use that get super global variable, I'll simply put PHP. I'm going to dump the information. I already showed you how to dump the information, and remember, I'm in the file of what? Of processing. So I'm going to just simply say echo the pre-tag, and this pre-tag will help to organize our what? Our code. And then I use the printer, and then if I put the print r, and then I put the $ underscore get, and then I put here the, sorry, I've been too fast. Okay, up to here you understand. Okay, up to here you understand. What I want to do, I want to dump all the information that was sent. So all the information that is sent through the link, we can collect it from there using the get super global variable. So I'm going to dump that get super global variable. To dump it, so I'll put $ underscore. Remember, all our super global variables, they begin with the $underscore apart from the what? From the globals. So I want to dump this get. So it's going to be $ underscore get. So let us see what we'll have there. So if I come and refresh here, can you see? You can see it is an array. So all the information that is in the link here has been converted into a what? Into an array. So if I come, it means that I can as well come and code this something here, since it is exposed. So I can come and put here Sumaye. Okay, so you see, whatever I write here in the link has been encoded and placed here. So we know how to encode the link now. If I want to add another value, I will have to put the and sign, and after putting the and sign, I put the name of a value. For example, I can say gender. Okay, then after putting the name of the value, the index, then you put the equal sign, and then you put the value. So you can say male. Okay, so you press enter, you can see the gender has been changed to male. I mean, has been added. Before there was no what? There was no gender. Okay, people can wonder, like, man. Okay, so you can see we have manually encoded the gate. So the gate, it is exposed. You can even add anything that you want. For example, I can add here extra. You see, I'm writing it straight away in the what? In the link. Extra is equal to more info. Okay, so this space is going to be encoded into, you can see the space has been encoded into the percentage D, percentage 20, because if you leave a space, it may cause harm to what? Our link. So you can see more info. So it means that all the information that is submitted from the form, it is encoded into GET, and then we can receive that GET data using the GET super global variable. So if I want to make sense of this information, and they have told us it's an array, so I mean that if I want to specify whether it is a name or what, I just need to put here whatever I want to specify, and it will be able to specify it. So I can say echo, for example, let me try to make meaning of this data. Your name is, I'm going to put dot, and then I put the GET, or if I want to get the name, I can just split name is equal to GET, and then I put, since it's an array, I just come and get here name, and then I put this one, and then I put the semicolon. So I can duplicate this one, and I can get the edge. I can put here the edge, I mean the country, because they tell us it is what? It's an array. So lastly, I can put maybe the edge is equal to edge. Let us try to make sense of this data from the form. So I come here, your name is, I already collect the name here, so put here the name, then I put dot, comma, you come from, and then I put here dot, and then I get where I come from, which is inside the country, and then I put dot, and then I can say comma, you are, and then I put the years that they're old. So I can put here, you are dot age dot years old. So by doing, and I put a semicolon at the last. So by doing this, it means that we shall be receiving, I can even remove this echo and pre-tag, I can comment it. So it means that we shall be receiving the name through the GET, and we get this GET, the information from the GET using these indices. And remember, these indices are set from the form names that we use when you're creating the what? When you're creating the form. You see here, I use her name, I use country, I use age. So this one they'll be used on the back end to collect the information. You see, here I have the country, I have the what, and you're getting this information from the super global variable of GET of PHP. So if I come and refresh here, you can see I've got some meaningful information. Your name is Muhino Barak, you come from Rwanda, you are 46 years old. So let me come back and refresh. Okay, let me come back to our form again. Where's our form? Our form is there. Let me refresh, or let me just delete everything here and just press enter. So that is our form. So let me put Smayake, and I put country Uganda, and I put age 55. Those years. So if I place, you see, your name is Smayake, you come from Uganda, you are 55 years old. So by doing that, it means that we shall have got the logic of receiving whatever data from the form and use it whatever we want inside our what? Inside our server. on the PHP side. So lastly, we're going to look at the what? At the get super global variable. I mean at the post super global variable. Just like the way I told you that you have two types of two types of forms methods. We have one is called super global variable and the other one is called the get super global variable. So I'm going to create a new form. I'm going to save this form afresh. I'm going to save it as get. Instead of get, I'm going to put here post. So, and I'm going to change this one to what? 25 post. And then I'm going to create this file for post again. I'm going to create a processing file for post. So let me come and first open. So how will I open? I'll just simply put this one as post and then shall have that form. So I'll change this one to what? To post also, the processing file for post. So I'm going to delete all this. Okay, let me leave it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to change this action and submit to what? To post. And change the method. You see the method was what? Was get. So I'm going to change it to post. Okay? So everything will remain the same. The name as that, and then the country as that, and then the age as that. So let me come and refresh this form, and I'm going to put the name. I can say Halima Masika. I don't know why I like Halima name. Halima Masika, country Uganda, and I can say 23. Then I submit. See, there's some error. Why? Because we were trying to get the data from the gate, and we don't submit any information from the gate. So this information, they are not valid. So let us look at our gate space. Can you see the URL? The URL was not there was nothing that was attached to URL. But remember, we have submitted the form. So why that? Is because with post they don't attach the information from the URL. Now the question is, how do we collect the information that was sent through post? Of course, we shall then use the post super global variable instead of get. Exactly the same way, and we shall put here post super global variable. So all this information will be encoded into post and will be sent in background, not attached to the link. The post is not attached to the link and will be sent in the background to the what? To the server or to the processing file. So all the information that was, let me remove this one and I dub the post, just exactly like the get, but it is going to be received in the same way through the post. So if I come and refresh here and I submit the form again, you see the information that is in the post super global variable is just like that one that was in the get. But the difference here is the information is not displayed inside the what? Inside the URL. The information is passed in the background. And you can see the exact way as we had the get is the exact way we have had the what? The post. So what you should know here, that the post, the information is passed in the get, inside the gate. So here we use it most of the time when you're implementing security. Like you want to collect the passwords from the user, so you have to hide the password. Otherwise, if you allow people to see the password in the URL, then your website will be insecure. So what do? We do what? We post the information through the post. Also, the gate, it has a limit. We cannot pass, for example, a file of 5 GB into the gate. No, that text or that code will be too long that it can't be passed into a link. So what do? If we were to upload a file to the server, we use the post method to submit that file. That's why we always need, sometimes we need the post. Also, the get is important in its own way, because if we never had the get, it could be hard for us to share the links. For example, if I come to YouTube, That is YouTube, and it is a place where we have a lot of videos, but separate videos, and I've not specified the video that I'm going to watch. But the use of get is, if I click on this video, YouTube will use the knowledge of video of what of get to pass the information. For example, if I click here, let us look at the link. Can you see? Can you see? YouTube has put question mark and encoded the get, and then put the video ID through the get. So we will need also get. It's not about the what. It's not about that all the time we need to protect everything. No. Sometimes we need the get. Sometimes we need the post. If a file is being submitted that is so heavy, the file that is submitted is so heavy, then we will need the post. If the file is secured or the form is to be secured, we will need the post. Because we want to hide the information. But if we want to share a link, a dynamic link, so that we should be able to specify it on the other side, then we may need the what? You may need the get. As how you can see, we have passed the ID to the other side of a website using the what? Using the get. So that's when you need a get, and that's when you need a post. So in summary, we use a post to pass too much data from the form, and we use get to pass very light data. We use post for security, or to secure things that we don't want to be displayed to the user. We use get when security is not that vital. So that's when we need the get and what? Get and the post. And you need both get and post. We use them to collect information from the what? From the user Z. So I hope you've understood, and I hope you're able to implement this in different projects. So in the next part, we shall look at what? We shall look at sessions. But for now, we shall stop here.
Thank you, teacher.